to the L-5 podcast. We are back with another week of movie review. And tonight, what we did was we did our 17-minute review of 5 films. So if you haven't seen this podcast before, basically we watched the first 17 minutes of a film, stop, give us a review score out of 5 stars, and then we watched the rest of it. But this time, we just watched the first 17 minutes of 5 different films. Each one of us picked a film, and we watched it together. So the first film that we watched tonight was The Archive, and it was suggested by Brian. So Brian, you want to talk about The Archive and give us your review?
I do not really want to talk about this movie, but so we're doing this lightning round. So The Archive 2020, it's on Amazon Prime. So not James Franco is all alone in the woods making secret sad robots with really rude AI. That's so I wanted to see this movie. I love science fiction stuff. I love robots. I love AI, that kind of stuff. I've got friends who are actually writing AI and building robots. It's really kind of cool. So I love seeing all of this stuff. And that's why I picked this. And there are a lot of very similar movies out. So I thought it was good for us to give it a good quick take. That's why I picked it. We want to talk about it real quick?
What was your review score of the first 17 minutes?
1. I at 10 minutes in. It didn't take me except 10 minutes. I was just bored, even though I love me some sad robots. But they move like people in cardboard boxes. It just felt like somebody was just tromping around inside a box. Just seemed really dumb. And then my thought was, who writes code to have a robot call a person a bitch? How horrible is that? And so it just, so all left in every scene after scene, I was just turned off over and over and over again. And then the only thing that I thought was interesting was that they were watching a cartoon, a vintage cartoon of ghosts. And I had just recently seen some behind the scenes Disney thing, or special effects thing actually, about rotoscoping. And the ghost in that cartoon was actually Cab Calloway rotoscoped as the dancing ghost. That was the most interesting thing in the first 17 minutes of that movie. Anyway.
Okay.
Would you continue watching?
Even though I gave it a 1, I might continue watching it because at 17 minutes, you kind of turn the first chapter, like we talk about the first 17 minutes as being your lead into the story. You're starting to move into the third robot that this guy is making, who might be a little bit more interesting, but only because it's more in the shape of a human being. So I might finish watching this one day, but I don't feel compelled to watch it right now.
Okay. All right. Dana, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll go.
Okay.
So this is so funny, Brian. We just cannot get this together to save our lives. So I gave The Archive a 4.5 stars, and I say I am here for this. It has some Westworld vibes going on. Some of the music actually reminded me of Westworld as well. I did say I was a little confused at times because we had these robotics that looked like they were from 1812, and then now the futuristic one that's supposed to be, I guess, his ex-wife or whoever she is. Obviously it's more than just a step up, right? So robot 1 and 2 look like Brian said, something you got out of Cracker Jack box. And then level 3, still kind of archaic in terms of today's times, I feel like, but not a level 3. Like you would have expected like hundreds more in between what they started with the boxes, and now this one now looks human-like. So I'm like, that didn't make any sense. But I've seen movies like this where somebody tries to recreate their loved one kind of think about even Black Box is kind of like this, but tries to create their loved one through some other means to keep them around. And so I like the idea. I thought it was interesting. And what I feel about this first 17 minutes, the movie may be crap, I don't know, but I was there enough and I want to know what happens. So I will actually finish watching.
Okay. Next.
I'll go next.
Okay.
I don't feel the same thing where I Brian the 1 at the beginning, but I'm not that 4.5. I'm not going I would probably give it a solid 3 for me. Once I kind of realized what was going on, that basically, I saw the 3 robot versions he was doing, and I felt really all of them were, I didn't think it was AI he was really writing as more as recreating his wife's persona in each one and trying to make it better and better. And so when he said like, oh, she's a bitch, it's like, that's his wife's persona. And he's put it in there versus a true writing the program of, doing that for it. I kind of was like on the fence on it when it first started, but there that 17-minute mark at that point, which is, spoilers, the thing starts to scream. It's like, that makes me want to kind of see it more because of that, because I'm just thinking about your consciousness, if it truly is a consciousness that he's kind of put into the robot versus a program he's written, or he's done so much, the program is so much like her real consciousness of being trapped in a robot body, intrigues me because, is it like a sensory deprivation kind of tank situation where yes, your body's in there, but you cannot feel or smell or taste or touch or really feel anything. And to see, in my case, I was like, will it drive her crazy? What will happen to it? And I kind of want to see it. I'm not really truly like 4 or 5, like, okay, I really, really want to see it. It's like, no, I think, and we want to take this out during work, and I have my thing. I'm like watching that as I type stuff up, that kind of thing. So I think I might still see that.
Okay.
I like what you're saying though. I didn't catch that he was writing her personality into that robot. So if there's a scene later where it turns out that she likes to call people names, and that is what he's doing, I think I'd be okay with that. Well, I think that would be interesting. Yeah.
The reason I think is because it said y'all call her a bitch or whatever, but also we talked about she was dreaming and dreamed about being in the car driving.
Yeah.
Asked her specific questions, and then we went to that flashback of them in the car, and I'm thinking, oh man, he might, while he was driving, got in an accident, killed her. And now he's trying to recreate her in a way. So that's why I think it's more of her personality that he somehow made it into a program to put. And I think he's put in each one of these. And it's just the first one is just it's like a basic model of me trying to. And that's why, they watch cartoons but it can't really speak or do anything. The next one can kind of speak and has it, whatever, but it's still not quite there. And this third one, which does look really advanced compared 2 to 3 is like,
yeah,
that's a big jump. Yeah. But I mean, it looks like that might be, I've got it. She's creating. That's why I think she was screaming too. Is like, my consciousness is in this, but we'll see.
I like what you said, Stacey. You actually made it sound even more interesting. 4.75.
Maybe 1.5 now.
I know, right? No. Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm with Stacey on the 3. It viewed to me kind of like a video game, and I don't know if I'm the only one that views it that way, but it's sort of this like level up, level boss, and it gave me this development of kind of like what Stacey was saying around like the last robot literally was at the 17-minute mark and made me say like, wow, this is something I want to see. But the most intriguing thing for me is this sort of like robot to personality thing that they have going on to, my wife and all that. I personally would have liked this if it went into more of the development of the robots. Like, why does the first one look like this as opposed to the second, as opposed to the Ex Machina looking 3 one? And yes, she looks just like a cousin of Ex Machina. You need to watch that movie if you have. And so I'm sitting here like, I like this movie, but y'all got to give me more. Like, I gave it a 3 again because of the last 5 minutes of this viewing. If I didn't have that, it would have been maybe a 2 or something, but or 1 or a 2. But I felt like that last 5 minutes should have kept that same energy with the beginning, because I think it should have went into more. How are you developing these robots? What are you doing? And show us that process. Show the viewer like how you're doing it. And I don't know why directors kind of jump into things a little bit so early. Like, if you're going to jump into it, I would have wanted more. So that's why I gave it a 3, because of that last 5 minutes. So, and it probably would have been a 2, like I said, if that 5 was exempt. So,
yeah, because we spent the first 5 minutes watching him just run through the woods. That was
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna retweet what Jeremy just said. He basically said the exact review that I was gonna say, is that, I did want to see more of the development between the two robots, between each stage, versus just dumping us right there into his environment and not giving us a little bit more backstory than what we had. And maybe that's what they'll get to later on. So if it wasn't for what happens at 17 minutes, I probably would have not continued to watch it. So I was at a 3 at the first 17 minutes, because I do want to see what happens next. So I will definitely continue to watch. But if it wasn't for that, like, they were smart. They were smart in doing that. Maybe they knew what we did for our podcast, and so they were like, "Hey, let's throw this in right at 17 minutes."
That AI, that Amazon Prime AI knows.
Exactly. So I would definitely watch it. So another vibe I got from that movie, not just Ex Machina, was a movie called Chappie. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that movie I did not like. It was very bad, in my opinion. The way that the robot sounded, the first 2 models, or the second model, sounded like Chappie to me, and I was like, please don't let us get another Chappie type movie. I really did not want that. So glad they didn't go that route. So the next movie that we had up was The Silencing, which is also on Amazon Prime, and this was Stacy's recommendation. So, Stacy, you want to kick it off with this one?
Yes. A man named Rayborn, or also known as Cersei's baby's daddy brother.
Our brother.
Is bereft and lost because of the lost or missing child. And now there are more missing women that are being found in the same area of where his child was missing. And that is basically the overall synopsis of the movie. The reason why I chose it was I actually was kind of picked something that was on the list. I really wasn't looking at it too hard. I was just like, Silencing. That sounds like something I would like. And it ended up being something that I would like. Basically, like I said before, it's about a father who's lost, has a missing child, and basically no closure, doesn't know if the child's alive, dead, whatever. And now there's missing women are being found in that same area. And I gave it really in the first 17 minutes, I'll give it a 3.5, 4, because it was something I would continue to watch.
Okay. Did the hunting add a little bit extra for you?
It did. That to me is frightening, just because my parents hunt and I've been hunting and all that. And I'm just saying, human beings are probably, to be hunted would be just terrifying. And I've been hunting with my parents. I've never killed anything. My parents kill stuff and I go fishing and stuff like that. But I'm one of those people, like, when I put the worm on the hook, I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry about this. But, I know I'm eating fish. I'm catching a fish. I could buy it. And I know I really don't need to kill you. But, I'm having fun here. So I do that. I sometimes think of that when I'm doing that, and I'm fishing. I still enjoy fishing, but I do still, like, I'm sorry about this. I really am. But I'm still killing. But a person, even though I watch those kind of like horror stuff too, like, this kind of stuff that people, and it kind of, I guess, because I travel a lot too by myself, some of that stuff is in the back of my head, but I still enjoy watching that. I really do. And when they saw that, oh gosh, this girl may have been hunted, that kind of scares me, because there are crazy people out there in the woods. It's just, it was really something that I really was intrigued with. And it kind of gave me a little bit of not so much, Silence of the Lamb kind of vibes things, not necessarily Silence of the Lambs with Hannibal Lecter, but if you watched Hannibal and you saw some of the episodes of the TV show Hannibal, it gave me that kind of vibe.
Okay.
All right, I'll go because I just like one second. Anyway, so I actually gave this movie the first 17 minutes a 3. I said I was kind of interested and probably would finish. So one of the scenes, the brother and the sister are driving past a house, and we don't know what's happened at this house. And the brother freaks out, and the sister's like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm sorry," or whatever. And that just bothered me because I felt like she should, whatever happened at that house, we don't know in the first 17 minutes, she should know it. And for her to act like all of a sudden she forgot is as crazy as he got, and begging her not to go that way, even if she wasn't thinking about it. When he said that, she should have immediately clicked in her head where she was going. So I thought it was kind of just weird. But what I will say is, listening to Stacey, like, I totally am confused as to what I was watching a little bit. That's why I gave it a 3. And I'm like, because Corey and I actually had this discussion after the 17 minutes. So I know he alluded to the fact that he had a daughter who was missing, him and his ex-wife, or I don't know, they're married now, but whatever. He had a daughter who was missing. I just thought, whatever, that was a long time ago, because the woman has since moved on and is pregnant with another baby. So I didn't know she was still missing. In my mind, I thought she's dead. So because I don't think they said what happened to the girl.
Well, they don't know. Sorry.
I think they just said, yeah, you can't just forget about it like that. Whatever. I don't know. And she's like, "Oh, forget about it. This new baby isn't replacing her." So it didn't click, and they may have said something, but it didn't click for me that she may still be alive. So Corey thought that maybe the posters he's hanging were for his daughter. Mm-hmm. And that the woman whose body washed up may also be his daughter. He just doesn't know it yet. So I didn't get any of that. So I don't know what, like, I was totally just like, well, I didn't connect those dots whatsoever. So I'm interested to see what happens after these 17 minutes. Because y'all were seeing stuff I totally missed.
Well, if the things you were putting up, it said I forgot the first name of the little girl, but his last name is Swanson. That's his last name. So that's his daughter. And she's been missing for 5 years, and her body has never been found. So there's this whole, is she alive? Is she dead? I mean, everybody's assuming she's dead, except for him, like this hope that she's still alive, because they have no body. And that's one of the things when that thing came on the news about they found a young girl missing, and she's like, is it her dead body? Is it her? Because he doesn't know. And so that so 5 years, his wife has moved on. They may have, and I don't know at this now. I don't know. I haven't finished watching it. I haven't really paid. Were they married? I think they were married. Okay. But 5 years is, the whole thing broke up the marriage pretty much. And she's moved on. Well, obviously, see, she has moved on. To Rayburn there, oh, not Rayburn, Blackbird or Black Crow, whoever, the other sheriff of the reservation.
Blackwater, right?
What? No.
We were just talking about that earlier.
But I think that's part of the problem, or his problem is, he feels guilty about her missing, and it had to do in the first 17 minutes, like, it had to do something with his drinking. When his wife's like, "You still drinking?" Even though, and you never hear what, but it has to do with his drinking, and the fact that he hasn't let go, and he hasn't let go to the point where he opened up this sanctuary because she didn't like the fact that because everybody mentioned, like, a sanctuary. You did a sanctuary. You had the worst traps in the world, had the worst traps in the area, but now nobody can hunt. People were like, really? So you could tell that it has really affected him, that he has at least tried to change his life around in some aspects. And then maybe not the drinking, but in everything else, it looks like he's, tried to change his life. And I did find it funny when the kids came in. And he's like, "Oh crap, I forgot about that." And the teacher, who's like, "Are you been drinking?" It's like, "Those kids won't know." And I was like, some of them will. But that whole, just just getting drunk, just ain't nothing else to do. I mean, just that sadness of it. I'm not saying I know I'm laughing at it, but it's not funny, really. That kind of sadness of having a missing child, not knowing if they're alive or dead, and then blaming yourself partially for it.
So I love how that one little detail that I missed gave me a whole different perception. I mean, none of this even slightly occurred to me at all. So, I just thought he had a child that passed away a long time ago, and he was still sad about his wife moved on. Like, I didn't think any of that. So
what do you think, Brian?
Well, I just want to keep going with this thought, because what I wrote down after 17 minutes, I asked this question: is there a writing style to create dialogue of vagueness that to indicate stuff that's important to these characters, right? But to create tension or interest, and that's your writing style. And so there was so much vague dialogue. They were dropping just little teeny tiny things, but not enough to really give you the whole picture. And I think that's why we can interpret so many different things so far in this, and not really have the same idea between any of us as to what's really happening yet. And I think that there's a trap in that in storytelling, where if everybody is so vague far enough into the story, it's like, do you really care about anybody in it yet? And so it's like the whole storyline with the kid, like you were saying, the guy in the back of the car, he probably is the most interesting character in this whole story so far, actually, and we only have a couple minutes with him so far. It's like there's already so much more going on with him, and why he got in trouble, and his past, and what the heck happened at that location that we shouldn't be driving in front of. I'm more interested in that story. I don't know if we're gonna get it. Yeah.
What was your score?
At this point I'm at a 2, and I'm not sure I'd keep watching it. I mean, but like if we were watching this, like if we put this in and started watching it at 17, I probably wouldn't turn it off. I'd probably keep watching.
Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm at a 3. I mean, the issues you all have pointed out are synonymous to what I wrote in my notes. Like Brian, as you mentioned, the gaps in the vagueness in the storytelling also were very much gaps for me. Like they did the good work of like, okay, the detail of the arrow said MB initials. Okay, cool. That now makes me think, okay, whose initials now is MB, who's later after the 17 minutes will be MB, that connected to the arrow. That like you do these kind of puzzles in your storytelling, but it didn't carry enough weight for me to be like, this is a 4 film, because, again, we started in the woods. I'm like, here we go. Like, are we about to do another Get Out, running through the woods and driving? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing again? But I like that the main character, he approached the 2 guys and, it was more of a y'all be careful now. Like this sort of like weird kind of like dissonance between him and these other characters that I like. But the only thing that really kept me from going lower is that it kept me captivated from he's passing by with the police officer and there's some history. They put a lot in the 17 minutes. I mean, if you think about the sequences, we got a lot for our money for the 17. Was it all good? I don't think so, but I will say they packed that 17, particularly with a lot of different scenes and a lot of different stuff. It wasn't the strongest, but the fact that they did it wasn't bad. The character development was pretty good as well, but I felt that it ended at a point where I wanted to continue to see the story, continue to be invested a little bit in the characters, but the story, I think, kind of carried everything on its back. So I was okay with that. Some of the characters were more weak. Some of the characters I didn't know anything about. That's okay. But again, that doesn't make it a 4 or 5 to me. That kind of keeps it middle, at a 3. So I hovered around a 3. So I kept it a 3.
Okay. I was probably about 2.5, maybe a 3. This movie kind of did the same thing that the last film did. I really didn't know what was going on, and right at the 17 minutes, they gave me enough to be a little bit more intrigued. I needed to know more about the kid in the back seat, like Brian was talking about, and I needed to know more about the arrow that we found. There was something suspicious about that arrow that I was like, I need to know more about what this is, because I think when we were talking about it in the Discord, is that didn't seem like a normal type of arrow to use for something, for like just regular hunting. So I need to find out a little bit more. So I'll probably finish watching this, but I won't be in a hurry to watch it right now. Okay, so the third movie was DNA, and this was Dana's suggestion on Netflix.
All right, so DNA is a movie that is about a young lady who loses her grandfather, and he has a very rich history about things he did in the world, such whatever. And so she spends, I guess, this movie finding out more about his life and his past, and just basically her background, her heritage, her family. So I picked this movie because I wanted to pick something that was on the list. So we have a list where everybody puts in different movies that they've heard about and want to see. And so I saw this and I was like, DNA, that sounds like science fiction. I can't wait to see it. So I knew absolutely nothing about this movie whatsoever until we pulled it up. And the minute we pulled it up on Netflix and I read it, I was like, oh, Lord. So just what I wrote is, at first I was like, no. And then when I realized it was in French and dubbed, I wanted to apologize to all y'all, because I was like, this is not what I meant. But as I watched it, I have to be fair and say this is not a movie that I would choose had I known what it was about. But honestly, it was sad and it was kind of beautiful in its own way. It was just seeing, I have a small family. So seeing all these people kind of around their grandfather or their father, and just, spending his last days with them. That book that they created about all his past experiences and things he did was really, they seemed like he had a really rich history, and they had a really tight family. And so that was interesting. I also thought the whole thing with the care place, the nursing home he was in, that was just sad to me. I hated that. But anyway, so what I wrote is, I'm still not going to finish this movie, but because I don't want to feel sad, not because I don't think the movie is probably good, because I think it probably is. Like I said, it definitely had a beauty to it, but it's just not where I currently want to be mentally. So I'm not that interested in finishing it. But I would give it a 3 at this point. But just know that that's a biased 3, and that I probably wouldn't have watched it in the first place.
Well, I would give it a 4. I'll go ahead and go next. So I would give it a 4. I thought it was very heartfelt, sad. The characters that were in this film, the people who were playing these roles, felt like real characters. Thank you. I said in the Discord that I was going to stop at 17 and grab a tissue. I didn't quite grab the tissue, but I know that I would have. I was doing other things while I was watching the movie, but if I hadn't been doing that, I'm sure I would have had a tissue at 17 minutes. But the people who were playing in this film felt like real characters to me. It didn't feel like they were actually actors playing in a movie. It just seemed like somebody had a camera and just decided to document this life. It's very realistic. It's something that a lot of people go through. And when I saw the scene of the grandfather being in the rest area, the rest home, it just kind of touched my heart a little bit more, because I have this weird thing about me, like I want to work in a rest home. I don't know why, but I want to care for older people. And so, I have no background in it. I have no idea what goes into it or anything like that. But there's something about just being there for people in rest homes.
You do. You work at a TV station.
You
work at a rest home.
There's something about being there for elderly people. There's something about being there for elderly people in their last years or something like that in a rest home. And a lot of them don't have families, left. They're just by themselves. And so I had this feeling to go and just sit with some of them and just talk to them and that whole thing. And so when he was doing that with his grandfather, it really tugged at my heart a little bit more. And so that's why I gave it a 4. I think this movie is straight up my alley. I will definitely finish watching it. And I will watch it in French, not in English dubbed with subtitles. I will watch it in the original language and do it that way.
And read it.
Mine was not dubbed. I clicked on the one that was not dubbed.
Yeah, ours is already dubbed that way.
Yeah.
But how is it not dubbed?
You can
change it.
They were speaking
Oh,
French.
so you read the caption, Brian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And
okay.
I don't know. I guess that was just a preference on my account. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it did have options down at the bottom because that's crap when I saw it. But we just hit play to whatever it came up, and that's why I didn't know if it was going to be captioned or dubbed till it started playing. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'll finish.
The dub sometimes takes away from a movie to me because sometimes those voices, I'm like, I don't feel like that's really. Especially if they're poor actors. Like everybody can't be a voice actor, Beyonce. And so I just sometimes think they move. Yeah. So it's probably better to honestly read the caption.
We're going to get in the comments if someone actually was watching it. The Beehive is going to come for you.
They're coming for me.
That was her, not me.
Well, Stacey, do you think Beyonce is a good voiceover actor, like in The Lion King?
I've never seen the second Lion King. So.
I haven't seen it either, but we saw the commercials. So based on the commercials,
I'm going to give DNA a 2. I was not. It's not really up my alley. And for the first 17 minutes, I mean, I understood, having a grandparent in a nursing home kind of facility. Granted, with the fact that he had dementia or something like that he was couldn't communicate. I mean, I did, see that relationship between him and the grandson who was there with him. And I have to say the patience of the grandson, because when that old lady kept saying, "I'm hot. Why is it so hot?" And when I visited my grandmother, it's just. That's what, they would get caught up on something, whatever's wrong. And the fact that he just kept answering her and and I don't know if someone actually did. And, this is a movie. It didn't sound like anyone else was saying anything to her, just let her talk. And he actually acknowledged her. So I did like that point, but that wasn't enough for me to keep watching it beyond the 17 minutes. And this is not my kind of a movie. So as soon as it came up, and I thought DNA 2 when you said, science fiction, I was like, I might watch. And then it's like, DNA family. Okay.
You're gonna have to start clicking those links. We put the links next to the movie.
I wanted to be surprised on that,
Surprised though, because
I didn't look up anybody's movie. So I was like, okay, let me see 17 minutes and see what I feel about it. But again, I was not. I was like, okay, he's dead. So who gonna do now? Just go with, is it gonna be a whole flashback? And I don't care enough to actually watch the rest of it and see what's gonna happen.
Okay.
I'm just not a family drama. I can't say I don't like any family dramas because I watched This Is Us. Last season, not so much. But over the first 2, I was there for it. And ugly cried through a lot of it. Mm-hmm. But I just wasn't into DNA at all.
Okay. Right, Jeremy.
DNA was interesting. I mean, I didn't really get into it until like halfway through the 17, like 8-9 minutes. I was like, okay, like this is, because I was stuck on the Amy Winehouse. I was like, I love Amy, and the sweet lady that looked like that. I was like, is she going to reveal herself? Oh, I'm Amy. I was just waiting for that. But whoever said that in the Discord, shout out to you, because I just said I want to go to rehab. Clearly I'm not a singer, but I'm just saying these are things that I think about. I also felt it's kind of interesting because I'm looking at my notes here. Like, I think that if they were to, I get that they hit us early with the death and all that. Like, I was like, why so early? Like, is the rest of this film, how long is it? Are we kind of going into the genetics of this family and some other things? It was good, but I felt that I wanted more of like why this is like, we got the grandfather, we got, obviously where he is in his life, and the grandson is taking care of him. But yeah, I just want to know more about the family. Actually, the grandfather, we got it good. We see what's going on with him. But what about these other characters that were kind of like good to me, but also like I want to see the rest of the story, because after he, the 17 minutes he dies, I'm just like, what else are we kind of getting at? It was, it was okay. It was like a 3.5. I couldn't decide. I'm still kind of indecisive on how I feel about it. And the reason I say that is that I kind of want to see the rest of it, but I kind of want to give me about 5-10 minutes. Give me about some popcorn and some Kool-Aid, and I'll see about 10 more minutes. And I'm probably going to want to cut it off. And the reason is, I think Dana hit on it too. Like, after I see that, and like, that's going to be good, and that's going to determine if I want to finish it. Because if that's what the whole movie is about, then that's okay. But if you give me more of the family, if you give me more of the dynamics between the grandson, the Amy Winehouse lady, again, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, the other people, the nursing home, like, I want more of that as opposed to the grandfather. No disrespect to him, but after that happened, I always was like, what's next? And I still feel that way towards the other character. So I'm kind of middle of the road with it, because I don't know how to go. This is one of the few movies I'm typically very much so on one end or the other, but this one I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like it really ended at an awkward point. Not that 17 minutes is bad, but this is one of those films where it's either 5 minutes or you watching it for 50 more minutes, and it's no in between. So I'm okay with that, but that also means my rating is like middle of the road. So
yeah. So I'm at a 4. I'm more along the lines of what Corey's saying. I think I'm interested in it. I'm totally a family drama movie and TV show too. Like,
you want to work in a rest home too?
No. I'm constantly taking care of people. But yeah, and so I was actually really interested in the characters. I wrote, I'm enthralled with these characters, so I would have continued to watch this. So it is interesting, but like you're saying, at this point in the film, the movie could do anything. It could go back and talk about his life more. It could go into the depth, the rest of the family, or do both. Let's go. So I'm there for it. I'm interested. I would recommend looking at the rest of this movie. Next.
All right. So our fourth film was my pick. This was Hearts Beat Loud, which is on Hulu. It was in 2018. It's a drama comedy about a father and daughter who become a songwriting team before the daughter goes to college. The reason why I picked this is because I remember seeing the trailer for this a while back. It stars Nick Offerman and Kiersey Clemens, who was in the movie Dope. I really liked her in that, and I've seen her in clips of other things. And so I wanted to see it. It's right up my alley. It's not a musical, but it's about music and songwriting and stuff. And I really like movies that are in that type of genre. And I felt like we were going to get some really good chemistry between the two characters, the two actors. So I gave it 4.5 stars. I will definitely continue to watch this. At the 17-minute mark, you get this song that basically sparks off this whole songwriting thing between the two people, between the father and daughter. And we're in the middle of the song when 17 minutes hits. And I was so pissed that I had to stop the movie because I was like, I want to keep watching, but
did you stop it before the song ended?
I stopped it before the song ended.
You're so disciplined.
Yeah, I stopped it before the song ended, and I was upset, and I was like, damn, 17 minutes. But anyways, it's enough for me to keep watching. So I definitely will want to see this. It's very good.
So I gave it a 3.5, but similar to DNA, it's not my style of movie. So like at one point during the song, the daughter and the father are having a discussion, and she's saying, my heart feels like, I guess, or something like that. And he's like, my heart feels like what? And the intimacy of that conversation with her dad made me so uncomfortable. I don't know why, but it just did. Like, I don't like movies like that. It just made me feel like I don't want to get in my feelings like this. It just made me very uncomfortable. And so it's not my style of movie, but I can see it being a very sweet movie, because I do think the daughter and the father have a great connection. I thought that song was beautiful. Like, I loved it. I mean, that's probably one of the bigger reasons for my higher score of a 3.5, is because that song I thought was awesome. It was really great. And I wrote, so somebody had joked that after DNA that, oh yay, finally a funny movie. So I wrote that it was a slightly funny movie because I think I laughed once, but it was only the first 17 minutes, so that's okay. So I will not be finishing it, but I will let Corey tell me the ending.
Dana, what did you say when the funny part happened in there with the dad and the stapler? The staple remover. You said, this looks like Brian and his daughter.
I was gonna ask you, what, you don't like goofy dad jokes?
I sure did.
It was totally goofy dad jokes. It was so funny. I'm at 4.5 with this one too, right? 4.5. But I'm ready to watch the rest of this one. I think in this, there's so much story and character packed into this one big chunk of the movie. And I was surprised that they got into this writing thing so quickly. Or that they hadn't already been writing at this point, because that intimate moment where you're talking about them writing those lyrics, it's like it's such a kind of a teaching moment. Like, why do you feel like, or how do you feel like let me help you develop that idea more, and as a writing coach, that feels like they have, or he has, a lot of experience writing, and it didn't really look like he had a lot of experience writing, and maybe that's where it's going to go. Like, maybe there is something in the that is revealed later, or as it carries on, but that was I thought that was a cool moment too, and I was really enjoying the lyrics of that song too. But it was weird that, to me, I thought it was weird that they started out on the keyboard with really slow, sort of murky sort of vibes. And then it became this really bouncy, peppy kind of thing when they were all putting it together. So it's like, how did you get from one place to the other? But it's okay. 4.5 for me for that.
Jeremy, Stacy?
Yeah, I can go. Mine will be short. Mine was 2.5. I felt more intrigued by the why of his shop closing, and like the New York neighborhood, and y'all know how I feel with music, man. I don't you can sing and play the piano. Y'all know me. I mean, I don't know how I feel. So that whole part, I was looking at my phone. I was more intrigued about the father. I'm serious, David. Like, I was more intrigued about the father, why his shop closing, and why, like, his jokes and his funny kind of dad humor was cool to me. It didn't delete, like, kind of like take away from the whole essence of the movie. That was fine with me. But I was like, wow, this is happening, and I just wanted to know more about that than the actual music. And so I guess obviously that's part of the intrigue of the film, and that obviously didn't care. I didn't care about that. So that was the reason I rated it so low, is that I didn't really, like, I was like, okay, great.
They showed close-ups of the editing software and
I could care
forms
less.
and stuff.
I mean, I know the software, but I'm looking at it like, okay, great. That's all I got. So
okay, Stacy.
I gave it 2.5 as well. Wasn't really into it. It was, I know for all these movies, I did not listen to or watch what was the summary of it was going to be. So it's like I was basing it solely 17 minutes, what is it about? And it's like So is it about him and the lady who came in, who's, is it him and his mother because she's stealing and she needs help? His daughter, and it's like, oh, so it might be something about him and his daughter, and it just wasn't enough to keep me going on it. I mean, I liked it better than DNA, but it's like DNA was 2 and this is 2.5, so it wasn't all that much better. It would be mostly like there is nothing to watch. I'm like, we'll give this a whirl, that kind of thing. I really did not. I just wasn't into it. I know, father, daughter. It's like, oh, I love my dad too. I really don't want to see a movie about it, but it is. So overall for that one, it's like, okay, it's a little bit better than DNA. At least the dubbing, it's not dubbed. So, but other than that, I was like, okay, it's a pass for me.
Okay. All right. And our last film that we watched was, what were you gonna say, Brian?
Well, I was just gonna say before we get to the last one, because it's slightly different than these others.
Yeah.
This feels like we might be saving some people a lot of time watching this movie.
That's true.
We're doing the work so y'all don't have to.
Exactly. Especially because I think if you watch our podcast, you kind of get a sense of how we are as individuals and what we like and stuff. So if you find that you're similar to us, then you know that, hey, this may be a movie I'd enjoy, or this may be one I want to pass on. So yeah.
That's a good point.
I love how we're judging though those first 10, 17 minutes and be like, they didn't give me all the detail.
We have proven though that we have seen other films in the first 17 minutes that latches you on. You can do it. You can do it. So, all right. So the last thing that we watched was Heaven's Gate: The Cult of Cults, and this actually is a docu-series, not a full-length feature. And this was Jeremy's pick on HBO Max. So Jeremy?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Corey. I didn't realize it was, I realized it was a docu-series, but I didn't know kind of how they were going to do it. So just interesting, like we said, it is different. I typically have like 2 or 3 movie types I like, but this one was kind of out of the ordinary just to see how it is. And, it is something that for me, like happening in the 1970s and obviously I wasn't alive to see it or understand what it is. The fascination for me of especially like working in psychology is why people follow who they do, why people have this cognitive dissonance of like my life is in terror, my life is in like disorder, so I'm gonna just follow somebody, and hopefully that's kind of where I want to go. So I picked this movie. I picked this because it's fascinating that to me, this docuseries just came out, and I was like, why? This is something I thought obviously would happen in the 90s, early 2000s, or obviously closer to the actual incident. But there's also psychological, like, these people are not just like bums. These people are well off. They're professionals in their career. Like, why is it captivating for us to watch something where it's the largest mass suicide in U.S. history? So that to me was interesting. I work in mental health. I know, obviously, I'm not comparing this to like students and what I do in my other work, but it's also like a psychological way that they made this documentary and docuseries. So, obviously, I think the last couple, either episode or series 3 or 4, there's going to be why they did it and how they did it. And so I judged what I saw in this first 17. I gave it a 4 again because of the reasons I just said. And I ended up watching the rest of it, and a couple of us did in the Discord. And I just wanted to see the rest of it without judging. I judged the first 17, but I just wanted to see the whole thing to see what exactly is this about. And if the first episode didn't get me, obviously I'm not watching the other 4 docuseries parts. It's pretty clear. So I gave it a 4, and I'll pass it to Brian.
I gave it a 5. So we're if you couldn't tell from the title, Heaven's Gate, it's the cult of people who felt like they were going to be picked up by the UFOs and taken up to heaven, right? And so I wrote the same word, fascinating. One person at the beginning of this documentary sums up the premise really nicely in this series. I'd like to know about the time leading up to the big departure where the mass suicide happens. How did they all get to that point? And so this opens up at the very beginning talking about that event, and then they lead us into this. How did they get there? And then it goes all the way back to who were these the two leaders? Where did they come from? How did they start on this quest, or this like vision quest? And how did they gather these people up? And that's what the first episode goes into detail. And I'm kind of a sucker for people telling stories, and what I love is when when there's a collection of people who are talking about the same thing from their own perspectives and their own points of view and points in time about the same thing. But like any documentary, Brian. But yes, but I thought this was a great pick, and it's not necessarily something that's it's on the list of things that are being presented to you that you would necessarily click on and go, oh yeah, I want to watch about these people. It's like, no. So it was really great, I think, that we got ourselves to go and look at this, because I was surprised that I was interested in it for so much.
So I'll go. So I, just like Jeremy and Brian, I thought it was great. So I gave it a 4. I said it's so interesting. I really love, and I'm so glad that we have surviving members, because I like to hear, and to your point, Brian, how did you get this far? How did it happen? Because I think it's easy for us to see something that we don't understand and write it off. So when we hear, oh, UFOs, that's stupid. Like, I wouldn't, why would you do that? But then if you think about just religion in general, I mean, you've got some religions for certain days they can't cut on lights. You've got circumcision. You got every religion has something about it that if you just looked at it from just, a very closed point of view, you're probably like, what the hell are they doing? Like, it doesn't seem to make sense to you. And I think it's really important. And like you said, Jeremy, these aren't like people who were uneducated or anything like that. So it's very interesting to see, and it makes me feel a little bit different, and not be so judgmental, because at first I was like, I'm not, Corey could tell you, when we saw the flyer was posted up, the second thing was like, do you believe in UFOs or something? And I was like, oh yeah, that would have been the end of me. I wouldn't have continued this on. But I try to be a little more open about it, because I think it's really interesting to see how people get to those points. You never know what somebody is going through and what they may be drawn to. And I think in general, I believe in as long as you're not hurting others, do your thing kind of mentality, even if I don't agree with it or don't understand it. So I'm trying just to be a less judgmental person in general with stuff like that. But it also reminded me of Midsommar, because this was the same way I kind of like when I first watched it. I was like, oh, this is crazy. But again, for them, where they were, what they were drawn in their minds, this was making sense to them. Hey, when people get a certain age, let them, kill themselves. They know about it. This is how we keep, people from starving to death. The population isn't overrun. People know what to expect, So I feel like, even though in my mind it's crazy, or it seems, like it doesn't make sense, who am I to say, again, a little bit different, because we're talking about they were harming other people, but same thing in terms of like, how did you get there? People can ask me the same question of things that I believe in, like, Dana, how did you get there? So I loved it. So much so I watched the whole episode. So I cheated. I finished it, and I plan to watch the rest of them.
Stacey?
I gave it a 4. I know I left because I'm going to bed. It's like, yeah, I'm going to bed, but I still liked it, and I'm planning on seeing it. And it really, for the same thing that everyone else has said, it was very interesting to me of seeing how they got there. And I remember with Heaven's Gate and, the suicide occurred and all that, it's like, how do you get to that point of what you'll do that? But when they talked about the people who were in the cult and who left it or survived it, and how the stuff that they were talking about believing, and that did make me think about my own religion. Other religions is just, for other people, it's like, so he walked on water, really? To someone else, that could be like, yeah, right. So it's hard to say what someone else is thinking is crazy when you think about all the other religions out there and how we take our certain things seriously, and we just think it's serious because we've been believing it all our lives, and and we've had history, and it's Christianity and just how long that's been around. But if it came up recently, someone came up to say the same things that we believe in espousing, and now if that was just started in the late, early 1900s, you'd be like, yeah, right. So I can kind of see that. And then when those people are talking about, the 70s, and when people are looking for something to fill up that emptiness, it's just, not believing in what was the established religion, established what this, and it's like looking for something different, something new, something to fill for something, and you have someone who is filling that up. And it may be a whole lot of fluff or whatever they're filling it up with, but it's something that's fulfilling something to you. And, we saw a lot of that flourishing during that time, because one of the guys talked about, being a Krishna, and, just he went to different things because he was trying to find a purpose, a reason. And that just happened to fit the bill at that time. And that's something that, regardless of whether, like we said, education, socioeconomic status, is that to find a reason, a purpose or something, if you're missing that, a lot of times somebody can fill that in, and it doesn't mean it's going to be the right way to fill it in. Some people find it and do good things with it. Some people are led astray because of that. They want this, they want that so much. And we kind of can see that in this docuseries so far. And it does make me want to see it. So I do want to see it and finish out the series. So forth.
Okay. I hate to be the Debbie Downer.
Corey, we were so close.
I know. I have to be the odd man out. I'm sorry. I have to be the odd man out. I'm giving this a 2.5. It's interesting because, and hear me out. So all of you guys have valid points. I agree with everything that you're saying. You kind of make me feel bad about giving my 2.5 because you're making valid points, okay? And after the first 17 minutes, I was like, this is interesting enough for me to continue watching. So Dana and I decided to finish watching the entire episode. And I was getting Waco vibes from it. I was getting other different things. And it's a very well put together documentary. I do like the fact that there are original members that are telling their stories and they're still alive and this, that, and the other. But it's just the subject matter itself is not enough necessarily for me to keep watching 4 more episodes of this story. Like, I don't really care enough about the subject matter for me to continue to want to watch the series. I'm sure it's probably good. It's just not my thing. It's just didn't really seem like it was going to be my thing to carry on for 4 episodes. If this was more of a drama series like Waco, where there's a lot more of just character development and people interacting and stuff like that, or whatever, like you see it played out like a drama series, maybe I might be more interested. But in a documentary form, I'm not sure it's necessarily going to keep my interest for another 4 hours, because I think each episode is probably like an hour, and I don't think that it would keep my interest long enough for that. So
Corey, let me ask you real quick, because we cheated and watched the whole thing. You seem like you were interested in that first 17 minutes. So is your score just based on that first 17 minutes or that whole hour?
So that's a good question. So I would say if I was basing off the first 17 minutes, I'd probably give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Because there was enough interest for me to keep watching that episode, right? But then as I watched the rest of the episode, it kind of went down because I was like, I don't know that I would want to watch I know that I'm not going to want to watch the rest of this series.
Even after that last shot.
He loved that last shot.
I love that last shot.
I like how I do like the edit. I do like how they ended it because it does tell you click. It basically is telling you click on the next episode.
Yeah.
It's smart. It's very, very smart editing tool and directing tool for this series. Absolutely.
And we don't have to spoil it. We don't have to spoil what that is, but it was I'm
not going to
really
spoil
clever.
it. I'm not going to spoil it, but it does what it's supposed to do, and that's very smart. But at the same time, it wasn't enough for me to go, yeah, I want to keep going. It really wasn't enough. It's more the subject matter than it is anything else. It's just not my thing. Just like music is not Jeremy's thing, just like the DNA thing was not Stacey's thing, or Stacey, or David's thing, and just like Archive wasn't Brian's thing. It's certain things click. So it just didn't click for me. Just didn't click for me. So so that was our 17-minute collage, we'll say, of 5 films. I like that we did this because it just gives you a little glimpse into some films that you may or may not be interested in different genres. I mean, we had a pretty wide range, of films and genres to look at tonight. So that was really fun. So if you've seen any of these films, please leave a comment down below. Stacey's dad, if you've seen any of these films, please leave a comment down below and let us know what you thought of any of them and give us your ratings on any of those films that we talked about tonight. Anybody have anything else they want to add to it?
I'm just gonna say, if you want to watch more sad robots, go watch Tales from the Loop, people.
Oh. I probably would rather watch Tales from the Loop than maybe watch Archive.
Episode 5.
Any one of them
trying
now.
to get Jeremy. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it did take me a long time. I bookmarked it and then I finished it.
Or did you finish it finally? Okay.
Yeah, we finally finished that, just like Poe. Holla at your boy.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys next time.
Good night.